Hello. Hi, everyone. Welcome to join today's ELT debate series. It's fantastic to see so many of you here from all around the world. So, before we get started, I would like to hear something about you. For example, where are you from? Where are you joining us from? Which countries? Also, any ideas or thoughts that you can think of when it comes to AI. So you can just simply send your ideas through the chat box and chat with us. So what do you think about this? So I'm from Beijing. Now the weather is super duper hot. It's around 40 Celsius degrees. Yesterday, which is the hottest day this year. What about you? Where are you from? Where are you joining us from? Bangkok, Vietnam. Great. And what do you think about AI? Because today we are going to talk about how AI changed um, our class preparations. And we would love to know your thought about this. Oh, from Philippines. Hello, Anne. Hello, Richard. All right. And from Vietnam. How's the weather right now? Is it burning in your city, in your country? It's really hot in Beijing right now. I'm afraid that my laptop is getting warmer and warmer. Hi, Thailand, John. Okay, and what do you think about AI? So today we are going to talk about it, and I just wonder, do you think AI will change how we plan lessons, or is it just a passing trend? As you know, it could be a trend, but what about your experience? Are you using AI as a tool to help you prepare your lesson? Do you think it's a game changer? Or do you think that it helps? It's just a tool, but teacher will still rule the classroom. Okay, so Guy said he doesn't believe that it's okay. Binary questions. Yes, maybe they can't, right? But they can support us and maybe bring a new revolution in educations. And also, what do you think about when it comes to AI in classroom? What's your imaginations? For example, for me, when I heard of AI in the classroom, I imagine some instant lesson plans that just pop up when I teach. Or maybe AI can help me write down some notes on the board when I'm teaching so that I don't need to rush back to the blackboard or the whiteboard to note everything down. Or maybe it can synchronize and provide some visuals when I teach. And what do you think about it? AI is a game-changing tool, but it's scary as it's developing so fast. I totally agree. Yes. So, what do you think about this? Share with us. All right. So, okay, I think we are still waiting for more participants here, but it's time for us to get started. So I can't wait to introduce our debaters of the day. So welcome to our third session of our ELT debate series. And it's also very, very happy for us to have you join us again. So last time, if you have joined us last time, don't know whether you remember or not, we talked about that whether classrooms should be English only. And this sparks a lot of discussions. And also we received a lot of brilliant feedbacks from our teachers. And today we are jumping into another big question. It's about AI. If AI can plan lessons, then what's left for us to do? And it's really, really interesting to talk about it because, as you already seen from the chat box, the discussion, some people think AI can make lesson planning faster and easier, and maybe even take it over completely. But also, lots of you believes that lesson planning is something teacher will always need to do because no one understands students like a real teacher does, right? So we are going to talk about this. And before we start, let's meet our debaters for today. And we will start with our blue team. So we believe that AI actually take over lesson planning. Here we have Nathan Muller, our lead trainer for Macmillan in Dubai. And let's say hi to Nathan. Hello, Nathan.
Hi, Flora. How are
Huh?
you doing? Thank you for having me again, and welcome everybody. I see all
Great to have you back again.
the guys from Asia, Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, China, wherever you're from. Nice to see you all this afternoon.
Thank you. Okay. And also we have on our blue team is Super Huang, our senior trainer, teacher trainer, and academic consultant from Shanghai. Let's say hello to Super. Hi.
Hi everyone. Good to see you again. And I'm looking forward to another great debate again with Nathan, Real, and Del.
Yes, we are great to have you back here again. And next on our red team, they argue that teachers will always be needed for lesson planning. So first, we have Derek Dale Spafford, our regional professional development manager for Asia. And let's say hello to Dale. Hi, Dale.
Hello, everybody. How are you all today? I hope you're well and looking forward to another fun and interesting debate. I'm very much looking forward to putting my points across.
Sure things. I can see all of you are so ready for the debate. And last but not least, we will have Will Rickson, our global academic engagement and content manager at Macmillan Education. And let's say hi to Will. Hello, Will. Welcome.
Thanks, Flora. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the debate. Can't wait to get things started.
Okay, yes, thank you to all our debaters. We can't wait to hear what you have to say because I already see some brilliant ideas in the chat box, and maybe you may like to respond to them later. And I also noticed some of you are raising your hands. So if you have any ideas or any questions that you would like to share, feel free to use the Q&A function. You can leave your questions there and we will review your questions. All right. So please leave your questions to the Q&A sections. And before the debate begins, we'll invite you to cast your initial votes and share your first reactions. Then it's time for our first round of arguments from Nathan and Will. And next we will have Super and Dale will set up for us to share their perspectives, and both team will then have chance to respond to each other and bring in any extra evidence and to strengthen their standing points. And after that, we will open our floor to the Q&A, which I mentioned earlier. If you have any questions, just feel free to cast your questions to the Q&A because it's a chance for you to get involved and ask the questions you are curious about. And at the end, we will wrap up the final vote to see if anyone's opinions have been changed by our debaters. So it will be a very, very exciting journey. And let's get started. So before we start, I would like to hear from your ideas. So AI-powered platform will make lesson planning obsolete. What do you think? If you agree, please vote yes. And if you disagree, please vote no. So now I will launch the vote and please share your ideas with us. I will record the result, and by the end of the session, we will see whether you have been swayed by our debaters.
Ooh.
All right. Oh, so our debaters can see the results, right? Can you? Yes.
Yes.
Wow.
Very interesting. Yeah, to see.
Yes. I guess most teachers disagree with this, right? Because from your experience, maybe AI, it's useful, but it can't really take over the lesson planning. But I'm not sure how our debaters will share their points on this. As you may notice, AI have been involved in for quite a while, and it has been very, very powerful. Okay, so I guess we can end the vote, and I will share this result with you. Right? Ready? Can I end the vote? Okay, let's see. So about 68% of our our teachers disagree with this, and about 32% of them agree. So debaters, please remember this this number, and we will see the results after the session. Okay. All right. So let's get started. Let's get started with our first round. Thank you so much for your sharing, and let's get started with the first round. So now I would like to invite Nathan to be our first speaker. So Nathan, are you ready to share your ideas?
Sure, why not?
Sure.
feel like
Okay. So now we have 5 minutes. Okay, let's get started.
Okay, good afternoon. Well, I'm a little bit, I'm under pressure now. I was fully expecting a vote to go slightly in the other way. I thought that there would be a 80 to 90% in favor of this motion, the chance to take away this laborious task of planning lessons and spending hours sitting at your laptop making lesson plans. I thought everybody would be in favor of getting rid of that. So now I'm under pressure. I was expecting us to just sit here for 5 minutes quietly watching the red team squirm and sweat as they had to climb the Everest of challenge of convincing you. But now it's my chance. I'm going to have to convince you. So first of all, I think that what we're not talking about is replacing teachers in this. We're replacing this idea, this manual process, this laborious process of lesson planning. I think we're already actually heading down this path. I saw an article in Forbes just last week, that suggested that in a global survey that 41% of teachers are already using AI to generate lesson plans. So I think that teachers are already embracing this. I think teachers are already using this as a tool to cut down on their workload. And why? Why would they do that? Of course, it makes sense. Speed, number one, personalization, precision. It can use data to generate those lesson plans. Oops, something popping up in a way that is very difficult for us to do. You've got 30 students, for example. Let's give an example. You're going to have a reading lesson, a reading comprehension lesson. If you want to really differentiate that lesson, it takes a huge amount of time to do that manually. Whereas with AI, you can generate it in 3 different ways, 5 different ways, 20 different ways, 30 different ways if you want to, probably done in less than an hour. Your students will get personalized materials and you get more time to focus on the interactive part of teaching, that one-on-one support, turning you more into a facilitator, into more of a tutor, into more of a mentor than somebody who's trained in just delivering and preparing materials. I also think that AI is already starting to infiltrate into things like learning LMSs, learning management systems. So at the moment, so this is again where I think we need to think about this motion. It's not suggesting that AI has the capabilities to replace lesson planning now, but in the future, will it have that capability? From my point of view, I think that yes, it definitely does, or it will have that capability because it'll become easier. If you think about AI is slightly different to changes within educational technology in the past, where they became tools that we could use. AI, the difference between that and AI is that AI can actually learn. It's going to become better the more that it's used. The more you engage with it, the more it will learn. The more number of teachers that use it, the more it will learn. So, and the easier the accessibility becomes, if it's integrated into your LMS, it does that lesson planning automated on your behalf, then you're just responsible for the delivery of that overall. So in this sense, I think that lesson planning is a technical task. It benefits from structure, it benefits from consistency, it benefits from a data-driven approach and personalized approach. And I think that AI has the capability to do those things if we embrace it and everybody uses it. So it's not about replacing teachers, it's just about replacing this kind of manual, quite often exhausting process for teachers of lesson planning. And the last point, because I'm going to run out of time, is that for me, there can sometimes be a disconnect between lesson planning as an activity and lesson planning that actually happens in the classroom. I think if you was to review every teacher's lesson plan that they've ever made, what happens in that lesson plan that they use to file away, to show their supervisors, to tick boxes, and what actually happens within the classroom, sometimes there can be a bit of a disconnect between that anyway, I think. So, the idea that, AI producing those lesson plans will take away that magic from the classroom. It won't. It doesn't take that away. That can still happen. But what AI could do, if AI gets to a tipping point, is instead of AI being something that we prompt and get results from, it will actually flip the other way. AI will be able to prompt us. It will be able to say to us, how did that lesson go? What would you like to do next time? Here are some suggestions. So I think that it can.
All right. Thank you, Nathan. Thank you so much for your brilliant ideas. So I agree. I have heard of a terms called reverse engineering. And I think the idea that you said that how AI will prompt us, it's a bit like how they will control teachers to their teaching methods, right? So I really appreciate this your ideas. Okay. So sorry, before we move on to the next speaker, let me turn off the slide. Okay. Oops. Okay, I'm sorry, it's not working on my end. So, okay, we will move on to our next debater. So here we will have Will to join us for the next debate. So for sharing your point of view. So are you ready, Will?
I'm ready. Thanks, Flora.
Okay, so let's get started.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Nathan, for those points. Got a few things to say to them later. So my first point about why AI will not replace the teacher when it comes to lesson planning and why lesson planning will not become, so lesson planning done by a teacher will not become obsolete. My first argument is that once that lesson is planned and delivered and students are happy or unhappy, parents are happy or unhappy, at the end of the day, at the end of that season or at the end of that term or whenever they get feedback from parents, which is vital in institutions, which is acted upon rigorously by a good institution, the responsibility of that lesson comes down to the institution and the teacher. And when they say, AI did it, it's not my fault, I think we all know exactly what the response would be. That no one would say that. But if they were to say that, AI did that lesson. I didn't plan that lesson. I didn't write that. That's not my responsibility. We all know that a parent will laugh at that and say, it's your responsibility to teach my child, not ChatGPT's responsibility. So my first point is that teachers are accountable for student progress and curriculum coverage, and they must be able to justify their choices. If they blindly take a lesson plan from ChatGPT, for example, or Copilot, if they take that lesson plan and just use it blindly, non-critically, they are at massive risk of not being able to back themselves up when it comes to justifying the lesson plan that they went for in the end. So in the end, AI will not be held accountable if the curriculum doesn't hit the mark. And I think we all have experience with this. If you use ChatGPT to help you come up with some ideas and ideate or come up with something creative, we all know that it's a bit hit and miss sometimes. And if you do it every day, it will go wrong. There'll be a lesson plan that doesn't hit the mark very quickly if you don't use your own critical judgment and be responsible for that lesson plan yourself with human involvement. Secondly, over time, if a teacher, for example, were to use AI on a daily basis to write their lesson plans and to come up with everything they need to do in that lesson, over time, that will be risking the skills that teacher could potentially have developed had they not used AI. So if we hand planning over to the machines, to LLMs, we risk deprofessionalizing teaching entirely, and they will lose the opportunity to develop critical thinking skills, vital, going back to my first point, vital when it comes to justifying their lesson plan to third parties and themselves. If a teacher is, as I'm sure you all are, proud of the lessons that you deliver, how can you be proud if you're not using your own critical thinking skills to make sure that lesson isn't top notch? My third point is that we all live in different realities. We've got a teacher A over here who is teaching in Vietnam. They've got a staff of 20 teachers. They've got a staff room with 10 laptops, all connected via Ethernet cable to this powerful fiber optic internet coverage. They get access to ChatGPT as much as they like. They're not limited by the organization's sort of policies. They can use it as much as they like. Then you've got teacher B, who is in a completely different part of the world, who has got access to one laptop, which cannot connect to the internet more than once a week. And so not only can they not actually spend very much time with that chat bot, with that LLM to negotiate that lesson plan, but they probably can not actually access it at all. I've just realized I've only got 1 minute left. I'm babbling. All right, next one. Next one, point 4. AI tools are often biased, generic, or misaligned. Going back to a point that I made earlier. So generic being a key one here for me. I think we've all experienced when we have this conversation with ChatGPT and we say, I can't wait to see ChatGPT's response to what I want to get done here. I want to come up with a catchy title for a webinar, for example. And I had this chat with ChatGPT and it comes up with these 10 options and I go, oh, okay, that's the best you've got, is it? It absolutely needs human involvement at that point. It's a really good starting point, even sometimes more than a starting point, but you've got to have human involvement at a certain point, start taking over the reins and making that lesson good rather than passable. Point 5 is trust and respect for teachers matter. Across the world, and I think also particularly in Asia, teachers are highly respected individuals for their professional capabilities. And if they're reliant upon AI for planning, their perceived professionalism may decline over time. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing, Will, for your very strong 5 points of view. And I have feel that yes, I think I agree that AI is a very powerful tool for us to brainstorm good ideas and to refine teachers' plan and also for some headings or some subject lines for our like speech or discussion. It's a very, very good friend for us to discuss with. Okay, so let's move on to our next round of debate. And here, let's welcome Super to share her point of view. So, Super, are you ready to share?
Yes, thank you very much, Nathan and Will. Yeah, and I think Will mentioned a very good point about human involvement and using our critical skills. Yes, the whole idea is AI-powered platforms will make the traditional way of lesson planning obsolete, while free teachers from doing the repetitive lesson planning work while don't have time to be creative and get involved in these critical thinking judgments. So my argument would be AI-powered platforms will make lesson planning obsolete in terms of 2 ways. Firstly, it will make lesson planning manually by teachers outdated. We will have new ways of lesson planning, which is even more powerful, more effective, and I will give you some examples very soon. And secondly, AI-powered platforms will make the idea of lesson planning outdated because there are brand new concepts of lesson planning that teachers can adapt to and use it more effectively with their students to meet the different kinds of needs. So let me start with the first idea of lesson planning manually by teachers first. So I'd like to ask a question for teachers here today. So how often do you feel like burnt out in your teacher life? Do you feel burnt out maybe at the end of the day after a teaching, like a heavy work teaching day? Or do you sometimes just feel tired after every lesson? Yeah, just let me know in the chat. I have got too often every day now during after. Okay, thank you very much for your real honest feedback. So there is a survey done in 2024 in the United States by RAND. It interviewed nearly 1,500 teachers, and the result indicates that teachers are more than twice as likely to be stressed and burned out as other working adults. And there are 60% of K-12 teachers burnt out, feeling very stressed and disappointed, and feeling that teaching is not worth it. And even 7% of the teachers interviewed quit in the last school year. So it tells us that the workload is very overwhelming for teachers in the United States in that scenario. But I believe the situation is even worse in Asia because as teachers teaching English in Asia, we have larger classes, we have more needs to meet, we have more language barriers to overcome, we have more papers to grade, we have more lesson planning to do. So the situation is probably even worse here, as you can feel in the chat, the feedback, the honest feedback there. And what happens if teachers are burnt out? It leads to like loss of motivation, loss of like passion for teaching, which is a very, very bad thing, negative thing for our classroom effectiveness. If teachers are overwhelmed by workload, by like losing their motivation of teaching, the students won't be able to learn effectively with teachers who are burnt out. So now AI-powered platforms, I believe, will liberate teachers from that lesson planning prison, and they will have time to connect with students, to deliver and to feedback, to observe, and to adjust their lesson plans accordingly while they have time to like connect with their students. And secondly, I want to mention that AI-powered platforms will make the whole idea of lesson planning outdated, which is different from the way we do lesson planning nowadays. Let me take the example of our Macmillan's AI-powered course called Pivot English as an example. So in the previous, we will usually start lesson planning with a course book, right? For example, the Language Hub course book we designed for adult learners. We will use that book as the lesson planning like springboard, and then find resources, make slides, and create activities. But now we have turned that Language Hub course into an AI powered platform where both the teachers and students will have like adaptive learning experience. So the teachers don't have to spend time to do the lesson planning from 0 to 1. It's already there. The students will have their own learning journey created depending on their like learning needs and their own like performance on the platform. So teachers will focus on different lesson planning experience from now on. So that is my arguments. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for sharing, Super. This is also a very, very persuasive argument, because I believe a lot of teachers feel that they have been heard, they have been understand, especially when you said the burnout problems. Indeed, so with AI tools, it can save us a lot of time for class preparations, which means we have extra coffee break and to come up with a better, teaching solutions, right? And also for teachers' well-being, it will be a very powerful tool. Okay, thank you so much. But last but not least, we will have Dale to share his point of view. So Dale, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, let's get started.
So yeah, some really interesting comments from my three colleagues. I'm really looking forward to addressing some of those comments in the next part. But for my points, I want to talk about cultural and emotional context when it comes to planning lessons. And we talk about this a lot when we compare humans and AI, and that humans obviously are better at connecting culturally, emotionally at this stage, and are therefore better able to craft a lesson that matches learning to humans rather than just content to curriculum. Sure, AI can create grammar lessons, vocab lessons, some great skills lessons, but it can't sense how students are feeling. Different times of day affect different lessons, and plans need to be adapted and also made to meet those needs of learners at different points, even at different points of the day, but certainly different points of the year. If you don't understand that and you don't have that, it's very difficult for you to then plan a lesson that really meets the needs of learners. You can get AI to prepare explanations of grammar points and gap fills, but when it comes to emotional intelligence and cultural awareness, then I think an AI hasn't got the capability yet to really meet those needs effectively. So not in our classrooms, definitely not yet. Will sort of touched on this, and I'm going to talk a bit further about this, about planning is not just admin. It was one of the things when I was in the classroom, it's one of the things that I enjoyed probably the most was sitting down and planning a lesson. And Super talked about burnout. I never felt burned out because of the lesson planning. It was more to do with other aspects, which I'll address later. But I mean, I'm sure you've written lesson plans yourself and thought, that's how I teach and that's how I get to this point. The lesson plan is a process of development. It's not admin. It's not busy work. It's not something that can be just palmed off to an AI to do. It's something that you can use to really help you develop as a teacher. If we stop planning, we actually stop thinking. If we stop thinking, we stop learning. And if we stop learning, well, what kind of teacher would you be? And what kind of teacher would you want to teach then maybe your kids or your cousins or your nephews? It wouldn't be somebody that's not learning themselves. So no, AI shouldn't take this away from it. It's not just about planning. It's about becoming better. It's about thinking about who your learners are. And yeah, AI can dip in and take ideas from this vast internet of ideas, but really, where are those ideas coming from, and how can we judge whether those ideas are actually good? We still need you to do that, right? We still need you to curate what comes through. Think about our situation. Will sort of touched on this in terms of different the different contexts that we're teaching in. I know from research and from the feedback that we get from teachers who attend our webinars that the problems that they have across Asia are large classes, also a lot of diverse abilities in classes. And you are really better placed to be able to handle this when it's required. By using a generic AI to create a generic lesson plan, okay, you can feed in and say, plan a lesson for a class of 40 students and give them a class profile, but it really, you know exactly the individual learners at the times when you need to address them. And you can also write this into your lesson plans and should be writing it into your lesson plans. Whereas an AI is probably going to have a lot more difficulty doing that and finding nuance of different, like I said, different times of the day you need to react differently. And this can be adapted into your lesson plans. And AI is not going to have the capability to do that, in my opinion. Creativity, we've talked about this as well, about one of the joys of teaching, and I think one of the joys of working with teachers is all the creativity that they bring. When we do workshops, when we do training, teachers are full of ideas. They're full of creative elements to their profession, and who would want that to be taken away from them? And I think Super talked about it giving you more time for that, but I think once you go down that slope of asking AI to create a lesson plan for you, do that creativity, you're soon going to be palming off the nice creative parts as well and focusing on all the other things that admin, maybe your managers are giving you to do as well.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing, Dale. That's another very persuasive point. As you said, I think I agree that teaching is also a part of learning for teachers, not just for students, but teachers also need to learn and to improve and optimize their teaching and learning pathway. And also, as you said, that I guess maybe the most important part is that we cannot lose our creativities when it comes to teaching. And also, only teachers can understand the instant feedback from the class based on their experience. So that's why they can optimize their teaching methods and their approaches every time. All right, so before we move on to the next session, just a reminder for you, because I noticed some of you are raising your hand, but we have a Q&A sections that you can submit your questions for our debaters. It's a great opportunity for you to interact with our debaters. So you may share your questions through the Q&A box, and we will read the questions and we will respond to you. All right. So now we are going to move on to our next very, very exciting part is each debater will have 1 minute to add on to share some evidence or share some of your final thoughts that after you have heard other debaters or after you have read some of the comments through the chat box, and what would you like to say? All right, so we will again start from Nathan. Okay, so Nathan, are you ready? Okay, right, let's go.
I'm on mute.
So yes, yes.
Okay, so yeah, I'd like to pick up a couple of points. I can see a lot of the points that the guys are making on the red team, but I'm going to pick out two. One was this idea of accountability. So Will was talking a lot about parental expectations, responsibilities of schools, of responsibility of teachers. And I think that using AI to take away lesson planning from teachers as a responsibility doesn't strip away that accountability. In fact, I think it could probably add to it. If you think about the potential of what AI can do, the systems, as they're trained on data sets, they're trained on curriculum standards, you can put frameworks into them. All of these types of things can actually create a better sense of accountability. It might take away a little bit that sense of teachers having to justify what they're doing with personal emotions. I feel like this is what's important for students rather than this is what evidence suggests. That's one. I didn't get time for the other one. I'll leave it to Super.
Okay, thank you so much for your input, Nathan. And next, we will move on to Will. So for your 1 minute debate. Okay, ready?
Sure, ready to go.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to respond to that, Nathan, because my point about something you were saying actually kind of responds to what you're saying there as well. So I think it's a bit of a nuance in the argument, actually, but it's an argument whether lesson planning is actually what we're talking about is just that sort of piece of paper that's got the step-by-step of the lesson, or if we're actually talking generally about planning a lesson when you've got things happening before and during a lesson. Like you mentioned in yours, where you were talking about lesson planning isn't just done pre, it's also done in the lesson. Then they're never exactly the same things, are they? Well, rarely are they two exactly the same things. They're not mirror of each other. So when you go into the lesson, there's lesson planning going on there. So that's actually an argument, I believe, in our favour to say that lesson planning can't solely be done by AI. It's got to be nuanced within the lesson itself. And one quick response to your Super about LLMs, I don't believe that the response to burnout should be put on the shoulders of AI. It needs to be treated at the source, and I believe that source would be the management of the teaching team.
Okay, thank you so much for your input and very strong statement throwing back to Super and Nathan. Okay, so let's move on to our next debater. We will have Super for her 1 minute debate. Ready?
Yes. So my response to Will is, what if the management team is burned out? So the reality is I think teacher Anne mentioned a very good point. So there are too many lessons and too less time to prepare. So when we don't have enough time to do like all the lesson planning before the lesson, it just took like too much of our teachers' time. Instead, they don't have time to think about the delivery. They don't have time to engage. They don't have time even to reflect because they are just too busy to plan the next lesson because they are just they just have too many lessons and too many students to manage. That's why AI-powered platforms could free the teacher's time from that part and give them more time to actually deliver the lesson, to collect evidence from the students, to engage with the students, and also to reflect on their teaching as well. So that is my point. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, so here we will have Dale for his final thought. So Dale, are you ready?
Sure. Yeah, I'm going to talk about 2 points. One was something that Nathan said about lesson planning being a laborious process. Well, I completely disagree. I loved lesson planning. It was sometimes the best part of teaching. And if you agree with me, let me know in the chat. The second point about burnout, I think if you ask the majority of teachers what creates the burnout, it's probably to do, well, I say probably, I've talked to teachers. It's not to do with the amount of lesson planning they have. I think it's more to do with the class sizes, the lack of resources, as Will said. Let's sort it out at the source. The fact that the students are not streamed correctly, the fact that they're given too many classes to teach, which you could argue then they have to plan more. But I still don't believe it creates that much when it comes to burnout. Other factors are available.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing, Dale.
Yeah. I just saw
Yes.
your comment in the chat, Nathan.
Yeah, we received some really, really, instant feedback from our teachers. Okay, so now for the final stage, we will respond to some Q&A. But since that we haven't received any questions, so the floor will be open to our debaters. Let's see if you have any questions that you would like to ask or challenge the opposite team. So, any questions from maybe blue or red team? Who would like to go first?
Yeah, I just want to have a quick response to Dell's points because I agree that teachers burnout can be attributed to many reasons. Lesson planning is one of them, like having too much classroom management work to do, too many like administration work to do. The idea is lesson planning is usually done before the lesson, so sometimes we could save some of the time instead to focus on what's happening in the classroom. So because teachers, especially new teachers, if they are not experienced, they just spend too much time on the lesson planning, even without knowing what's going on in the classroom, without knowing the students. So the idea is if we can give these teachers, especially new teachers, a well prepared lesson plan, AI powered lesson plan, they will be more confident to step into the classroom, to teach the students, to try new things, and also to collect their own experience of doing these activities with that group of students. From that, they can be better, they will have a better starting point to create their own and adding their own thoughts to the lesson planning. So that in that respect, I think it's going to be, much more powerful with the AI platforms.
Wow. Okay. Thank you for your final thought. Super. And let's see whether red team had any ideas to respond. So red team, what's your voice?
Del, do you mind?
Yeah, go.
I think it's a bit of a complication in the sort of debate itself, I think, because it kind of depends. Are we talking about an AI lesson plan we're sort of prompting it with, this is my scenario, give me the lesson plan, and then that's it, and we print that, and that's our lesson plan? Or are we sort of assuming there's some kind of to and fro here? Because I think if there's any to and fro, that means that lesson planning by a teacher is no longer obsolete. They're still within the process. They're negotiating it. They're putting in their critical thinking. They're putting in their own experiences and knowledge of the students and their particular scenario as well into that. So they're inputting also into that conversation. And I think if they are inputting into that conversation anyway, for example, by using evidence they've gained from the previous lesson, as you were saying, Super, they know their students and they see them. At that point, I feel that if they are inputting now into the conversation, inputting new information that AI has not gleaned from elsewhere on the internet, that means that the teacher is still involved in the lesson planning. Even though the bulk of the work is being outputted by AI, they're still there inputting new information to inform that lesson plan. So therefore, the teacher is not obsolete. They are still very much required in that process.
Okay. Thank you so much for your input for this. So, yes, I think the most important ideas that we have discussed today is that how can we make good use of this tool and balance it, right? So no matter whether you think that AI can completely take over the role of the teachers or whether teachers should insist on developing their own curriculum, their own teaching plan, I think the living in this era, the way is leading us to get used to the AI, right? To incorporate this tool in our teaching and lesson planning. Okay, so here comes to our second round of the vote. Don't know whether you still remember the figure or not, but now we are going to launch the second vote and see how many of you have been swayed by our debaters, okay? So let me relaunch the poll again, okay?
What were the
Couldn't
figures for it? Do
wait.
you remember? Do you have the
Okay.
full? What were
Yes.
what were the figures?
So let me share the figures first. So
It's
the previous
32.
figure, yes, 32 to 68. So 32% of teachers agree that AI will make lesson planning obsolete, and 68% of teachers disagree with this motion. All right. So I will launch the second vote, and at the meanwhile, we have a survey. So you may check your chat box later after the vote that we have a survey, a quick survey that's related to AI and the area of teaching and learning. So we are really keen to hear from you. So feel free to share your ideas through the survey with us. The link is in the chat box. All right. So, we are still in the process of the second round of vote. So if you are listening, you can switch back to Zoom and to vote, share your ideas with us. I think the
It's so
result is
difficult, isn't
very
it? It's so
interesting.
difficult to keep within those 5 minutes, isn't it? Super Del Nathan. It just zooms by, doesn't it? Just
Whizzes by.
yeah.
My watch has just given me a stress reminder telling me to relax.
I've just been told to stand as well. Yeah.
Just right now, it's like
Your
I don't know why.
heartbeat.
I mean, we're gonna win this easy, but
Well, it's difficult to say because it was a bit of an easy answer at the beginning, I felt. It depends whether we've won people over, Del.
yeah.
I think so.
I think Nathan and Super, you had your work cut out, I think, too.
I agree. Yeah,
We
I
definitely
think
have.
with these debates, and hey, if anybody's got an idea for a debate for the next time we do this later on in the year, it's a challenge sometimes, I think, to get something that's really 50-50. I think the last one was pretty good in terms of like English. I think an English only classroom. It's kind of, there is probably more of a 50-50, but it does seem anything with AI. There's definitely I think a bias, and obviously we're talking about teachers and we're saying, you know, part of your job is going to be obsolete. You're probably going to lean towards that anyway, right? But it's just an interesting thing to talk about. It's what's happening and what's coming. So yeah, but if anybody's got ideas for debates in the future that are a bit more nuanced than 50-50, I'd love to hear them.
Yeah, for sure. In fact, what was really interesting in this one, Del, for me, is that when you pitched it to us originally, the initial thought in my head is, well, you know, 20 years ago, if somebody had offered this to me, you know, it can produce a syllabus, it can map out lesson plans, it can give you all the content that you need. I probably would have taken it. But then, as you said, as you start to really dig into it and really think about it, I mean, if you ask me now, I would be in that 68% for sure. I'd be on the other side. But when you initially think about it, you think, this is a no-brainer. But then you actually start to unpack it and unpick it, and you're like, no, but this process, as you talk about, is really important.
It also depends on the timeline we're thinking about here. If we zoom forwards 250 years, AI, goodness knows where it's going to go. For all we know, it's going to be everywhere, observing and recording everything. And so if it can literally get you and your life and record everything that you're seeing, every single thing a student does, and it comes back and it says, this has got to be your lesson plan next, because it's gonna, you know,
so we win. So what you're telling me is, if we're talking,
it depends on the timeline. I think we're talking about.
It just says will. It says it will in the future. So I think Will has just convinced us that the blue team should win. So thanks for that, Will. Actually, you know what? It's funny because we Super and I we had a very quick briefing meeting, and we actually said exactly the same thing. You know, it's scary that this idea that AI could eventually. This is the scary part of AI, right? I could be in this debate right now, as me on that screen, my voice, my opinions. But I would never actually know it happened. I could not be here. AI could literally impersonate me, and it can get to that point, right?
Yeah.
Well,
we're not far off it.
And then surely it can deliver a lesson plan. Like, that would be really easy for AI, I'm sure. But that's quite scary.
The existential threat, the scariest thing, is that you could be in a debate in China, for example, you speaking with your voice, but actually it's just been simultaneously. What's coming out, what people are seeing is you speaking Chinese, even though you're speaking English, but it's just so there's no reason to learn a language anyway. So, but I don't want, maybe that's the next debate.
That's
very spicy.
There's a can of worms. Maybe that's the next debate. English language teaching will become.
I didn't say that. Can we get AI to scrub that?
Anyway, we've got a result, everybody.
That was an AI deal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Flora, I think
Okay.
you need to start handing out medals and
Yes.
awards and
So
trophies and everything.
yes. So as you can see from the result, so congratulations, Red Team, that you have swayed most of the listeners to your perspective. Okay, so last but not least, thank you so much for all our debaters joining. And today, as we are talking about AI and how can we use AI to enhance our learning experience, we would like to introduce our latest AI learning platform with you. It's called Pivot English. So let me share my screen with you and to introduce this amazing tool. All right.
This is very, very exciting. Pivot is very
Yeah.
exciting.
So AI powered platforms do help teachers and students, right?
Yeah, so
Absolutely.
by the end
It
of
just
the
does- it-
session,
But it
we are
doesn't
still
plan a
talking about
lesson
AI.
for you.
No, and Pivot English actually still needs the teacher. It can't be
Yeah.
delivered. The student can't do it without the teacher. It needs the teacher still, doesn't it?
Yes. So as we today keep discussing about how AI can empower our teachers and students, here we go. Here we would like to introduce Pivot English. So Pivot English is a 6-level program that blended high-quality content from our very popular titles, Language Hub and American Language Hub, with this cutting-edge AI technology from our new tool. So what makes it very special is its personalized first learning pathway because it combines fixed lessons that can be used or with or without a teacher. So imagine that for students, they can realize the self-learning process with this platform. And also for teachers, they can incorporate this tool in their teaching and learning journey, along with this adaptive and personalized practice just for each student. So for teachers, Pivot English offers smart dashboard with real-time data on our students' progress and making it easy to adjust the learning focus. And for students, as I mentioned earlier, they can dive into independent learning, guided learning, and also to do some self-reflections on their learning progress with with some feedbacks, instant feedbacks from Pivot English. So if you would like to learn more about Pivot English, please leave your contact details in the Survey Monkey link that we shared through the chat box, and we'd like to follow with you. So, Dolores, could you please share the Survey Monkeys link through the chat box so that if any teachers or even students who are interested in this platform, they can contact us. All right. You can also share. So yes, thank you so much, Dolores. So you may simply click the Survey Monkey and to share your interest if you would like to know more about the information of Pivot English. All right. So thank you so much for all of our debaters and our audiences for joining us for our third debates. It's a really, really exciting and a very productive debate that we have some new ideas that just pop up during the discussions. So thank you for being part of today's debate, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. So see you. Have a nice one.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
See you.
See you next time. Looking forward.